Despite their reputation for moving slowly, many tortoises were in danger of going extinct far sooner than they would have liked. Even though they only make up a small portion of the 16,000 endangered plant and animal species, these reptiles have long been an essential part of the ecology and a source of inspiration for people who enjoy the outdoors. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Luckily, a good friend of the tortoises in Arizona was prepared to completely change his life in order to ensure their survival. When he broke one amazing record, zoologists throughout the world celebrated his accomplishment. Conversely, his neighbors couldn't help but get a little irritated. Residents of Phoenix have paid close attention to Jerry Fife's backyard. A beast that has never been seen in the American Southwest before was probably visible to anyone who was inquisitive enough to look inside his acre of property. The Fife home was a sanctuary for Galapagos tortoises, who shunned the usual cat or dog. Jerry would have to get up at 7 in the morning every day to tend to the 600-pound beasts that wandered around his house. He considered them to be much more than pets, of course. The native of Arizona participated in a global conservation initiative and has always had a fascination for reptiles. Jerry's parents got him hooked on all things scaly with a pet iguana. He would spend whole afternoons in his yard looking for lizards. When Jerry decided to pursue a profession in animal care, nobody was shocked. He was employed at Brownsville, Texas's Gladys Porter Zoo for a period of years. Even while it was a fulfilling experience, Jerry realized that zoos could only do so much conservation work. Zoos could only dedicate so much of their resources to rearing vulnerable species, since they were being pulled in so many other directions. Jerry discovered, however, that it was lawful for anyone to rear these creatures on their own. That insight resulted in a significant purchase. Jerry went out to nurture his first Galapagos tortoise 2,500 miles from his native environment after buying him from a private owner in 1994. The idea of rearing a tortoise in the Sonoran Desert struck many as absurd, yet the reptile specialist devised the ideal strategy. Phoenix turned out to be quite similar to the Pacific ecosystem that the tortoises were accustomed to. Their food demands were met by the prickly pear cactus and dry grasses in the warm temperature. Admittedly, Jerry had to step in a little bit. Giving neck scratching, which the creatures with shells adored, was one of his everyday chores. This method not only gained him their trust, but also helped him identify ticks and other unwanted insects. One tortoise proved to be easy to care for, he discovered quickly. Jerry was inspired to adopt 2 female tortoises into his home by their early success. Jerry was now regularly shipping in 50-pound bags of carrots, so he had to redraft his whole budget. Still, he was prepared to defend any expense. Considered by some as the reptile nut, he had joined the fight to prevent the extinction of tortoises. Darker forces were systematically reducing the number of tortoises on the island, but Jerry provided them with what they required to survive and proliferate. These specific reptiles were doing very well until a few hundred years ago. 10 distinct species of tortoises were found on the varied islands of the Galapagos archipelago, and this led to what is arguably the greatest scientific discovery in history. During his 1835 journey, Charles Darwin observed a variety of specimens and used them to support his theory of evolution. After meeting Darwin, a tortoise by the name of Harriet rose to fame and continued to live for 171 more years. Sadly, the reptiles were ruined by the publicity. Worldwide trappers and whalers flocked to the Galapagos because imperialism was in style. The gentle tortoises were mercilessly pursued by them, and the larger massacres completely destroyed entire islands. Although tortoises were frequently hunted for their prized shells or body oil, there were occasions when hungry sailors craved their meal. With little consideration for the advantages of reptiles to humans or the balance of the ecosystem, modern poachers continued to chase them. Numerous experts think that the resilient, long-living Galapagos animals may hold the key to a myriad of therapeutic treatments, including the potential to treat cancer. Jerry tried to raise them on his land for this reason, among others. Every day, he paid close attention to the sounds they made, those unmistakable moans that, to put it mildly, indicated the presence of 2 tortoises enjoying each other's company. Jerry, a wildlife specialist, was surprised at how frequently he heard these murmuring. The quantity of eggs startled him even more. More than 200 hatchlings from his little breeding program revitalized the species, which was an astounding result. Jerry handed off the majority of his tortoises to zoos or private owners because he was ill-equipped to care for so many of them, but not before receiving harsh criticism. Jerry's approach, according to some traditionalists, exploits animals by tearing them from their natural home and selling them as exotic pets. The captive tortoises were reproducing, but they were not being returned to the wild. Jerry and his backers, however, point out that it is illegal for any animal to be removed from the Galapagos Islands by Ecuador. Through the network of private breeders, many of whom provide the best care possible for their animals, the tortoise population can only be restored. Jerry realizes that his breeding in Arizona isn't quite a long-term answer, but he is justifiably pleased of his success. Tortoises and turtles in the wild also require assistance. Fortunately, momentum is building for that endeavor across the country. For more than a century, Queens, New York has made Rockaway Beach a landmark. This area is well known for being the ideal spot to get away from the intense summer heat of New York City because of its well-maintained shorelines and near proximity to Manhattan. It should come as no surprise that Rockaway's busy beaches aren't the best places for untamed animals to hang around, given its popularity as a holiday destination. Still, one critter defied the odds and came ashore for a very specific reason. Beachgoers saw the animal as soon as it emerged from the water, and soon a sizable group of people had assembled to see it shuffle over the sand. One of the rarest species of turtles on the globe, the creature was a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. And while sightings of turtles on Long Island are not unheard of, the odds of encountering a Kemp's Ridley there were about the same as hitting gold. The majority of Kemp's Ridley's known habitat is the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, which contrasts greatly with the frigid Atlantic. What led this turtle to end up so far away from its home? The audience was given their answers really swiftly, though. The turtle laid hundreds of small eggs as soon as it was comfortable in the sand. Although the spectacle astounded the beachgoers, the unhatched turtles were in danger. The chilly weather put the eggs at danger of incorrect incubation, even though they were covered under a thick layer of sand. The weary mother turtle took a big risk by leaving her clutch here. Spectators called the Riverhead Foundation for Marine Research, RFMR, to come and evaluate the situation after the mother turtle went back out to sea. Rescue personnel saw the danger these eggs were in as soon as they arrived and set to work preserving the eggs. In order to keep nosy beachgoers and raptors away from the nest, rescuers built a little fence around it. Rescue workers returned to the small nest daily to check on the eggs. Despite their confidence, Mother Nature had other ideas. The RFMR was certain that their strategy would keep the turtles safe until they hatched. Rising seas from recent storm surges approached the nest more and more in early September. The unimaginable would eventually occur as the surrounding region was steadily eaten away by the seas. The turtles would definitely perish if the floods filled the nest, and if that wasn't awful enough, the ones that survived would be easy pickings. The rescuers were aware that they had to go in, but they were hesitant for some reason. The rescuers were sure that human engagement with the terrain contributed to the turtles' impending peril, despite the Wildlife Service's belief that one should never meddle with nature's processes. In light of this, the RFMR requested authorization to move the eggs from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Plea was rejected by the federal government. Officials said the eggs must stay in an effort to save the turtles. Still, the RFMR retreated. Fish and Wildlife eventually gave up, despite early objections, and the rescuers began working on the most recent part of their plan. Rescuers discovered that an astounding 110 out of the 116 eggs were still alive. They gathered the unhatched turtles and took them to an animal care center that was close by. The RFMR anticipated that by using an unconventional hatching procedure, its high-tech incubators would be sufficient to hatch the eggs. Rescuers feared the turtles may have suffered injuries from the flooding or the transfer, because the eggs had been deposited 2 months earlier and the usual incubation period was 60 days. Fortunately, such was not the case. One of the rescue personnel saw the eggs were hatching after only a week or so of incubation, when they started to show tiny cracks on their surfaces. As happy as the rescuers were, however, they soon discovered that this apparently excellent news also came with a few additional issues. Upon hatching, newborn turtles possess an extraordinary amount of energy known as frenzy, which enables them to quickly enter the sea and navigate big waves. The rescuers had to bring the turtles back to Rockaway as soon as possible because their energy boosts were only temporary. Eventually, 96 of the 160 eggs hatched, sending nearly 100 tiny turtles scuttling across the beach and into the water. As they observed the little animals leap into the waves, the rescue workers rejoiced. Chief of Resource Management at the neighboring Gateway National Recreation Area, Patty Rafferty, declared, "It was one of the proudest and most exciting moments of my career." However, it was unfortunate that these rescuers would not have another chance to see the numerous lives they had rescued. The personnel couldn't tag the turtles because of their small size, and they wouldn't be able to follow them across the broad ocean. However, the part these men and women performed in saving these turtles cannot be denied. These Kemp's Ridleys will always be New Yorkers, no matter where they travel. Don't stake anything on it. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.